Hi everyone, this is Callie. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we are creating a few projects using the latest Pretty Pink Posh January product release. I'm so excited to share these projects with you. As always, there are some adorable products and ingenious stencils. We have now new hot foil plates. These are the large love and hugs. There are coordinating dies for the outline and the shadow. And then we also have the heart critter set here. I also have the dies. And here we have the sweet note die. It's an envelope die that creates a little note for like lunch boxes or little Valentine notes. It's very sweet, and we'll go into more details about that later. Here's the layered XOXO stencils. And this winter mug set was released previously, but now we have a companion die called Valentine Mug Editions. Super fun new accessories for our mug. And then next up, I have the layered Valentine heart stencils. There are a few layers to this stencil set, creates lots of texture and is a lot of fun. And here we have some cherry products and a layered cherry stencil set. So it's a lot of fun coordinating products. And I just want to point out, this is only the products that I'm using for this video. I do not have the whole release. And so there's a lot more for you to see. So be sure to check out the full release. Okay, so now that I've gone through a brief overview of all the products I'm going to be using in today's video, we can go ahead and stamp and color a few of the images that we're going to be using. For today's projects, we're going to be coloring with some Copic markers, we're going to be doing some ink blending and die cutting, so there's a little bit of something for everybody, and it hits all of the points that I love, and it's not too much. But because I'm making so many projects, this video is longer than usual, so please bear with me. So on my Copic Coloring, I am doing what I always do. I usually blend with at least 2 markers, most of the time 3, and sometimes a bit more depending on how large the images are. If you're interested in the color combinations that I use, be sure to check out my coordinating blog post. I'll list all of the color combinations for you, and I hope you find that helpful if you struggle with color combinations and what to use and where to start. I feel like I'm still learning all the time with coloring. I've recently started applying the darker color from the top instead of the bottom. I love getting inspiration from Instagram, and when I see other people color, I try to pay attention and change how I color if I love what other people are doing. So I kind of applied that to the panda. Usually I would apply the darker shades at the bottom of each of these sections on the panda, and this time I shaded from the top. So trying new things all the time, but typically I like to stay with the same colors. I think that my colors tend to be on the lighter side, but depending on the object that I'm coloring, like the cherries, they are very saturated in the reds and a little bit darker. I like to be more realistic with fruits and people, and then with critters I like to go lighter. So anyway, after I finished coloring, I just went through and added some few highlights with my white gel pen. Then I set it all aside, and now we're going to be doing lots of ink blending using the 3 stencil sets that I showed you earlier in this video. I'm starting out with the layered cherry stencils. It's a little bit more straightforward and simple. I'm only using 2 colors. So very appropriately, I chose the cherry color from my ink collection using the Positively Saturated inks from Simon Says Stamp. And I'm grabbing ink and applying the darker saturated inks at the top of the cherries, and then I'm using the residual ink to blend out the rest of the cherries. And I'm working 1 row at a time and going all the way down. So you'll see a nice gradient from top to bottom of each of these rows. So the cherries darker at the top and then lighter at the bottom of the cherries. So this will create some dimension and interest to those cherries. And then the next layer is the stems. I'm trying to apply more ink at the bottom where the stems meet the cherries. It doesn't always translate well with such a detailed stencil, but I tried. And now we're working on the leaves. And again, I'm applying more color where the stems touch the leaves and then fanning out to a lighter gradient. And so that's such a quick background. We've completed this one. I'm going to set that aside, and we're going to work on the layered Valentine hearts. There are 4 stencils to this set, and I'm going to start with the more open stencil layer. And I'm using 3 ink colors, and I'm going to use the same ink color for all 4 stencil layers. I'm going to start with a soft hand and increase the saturation as I go with each additional layer. And that'll just increase and intensify the colors and the details of all the layers while keeping it simple and keeping the colors the same. And because there is a bigger space to fill, I'm using the new blender brushes for backgrounds from Simon Says Stamp. It's bigger and it's nice and flat, and you can apply a smooth layer of ink with a soft or heavy hand. It's completely up to you. And because my blending brushes are new, I'm using some ink and then I'm working it into the lid of my ink pad just to get that ink to saturate the bristles a bit more. And that'll help me create a nice smooth blend on that first layer. On the second layer, again, I'm using the same colors. I'm just applying a bit more ink and applying a heavier saturation so we can capture the details on this layer. The next layer is going to be for stripes on the other hearts. So the intensity of the blending and ink saturation that I'm doing is going to be the same. It's just a different pattern on the hearts. For the final layer, we are applying some fonts and words on these little hearts. So I'm going to be using a heavier hand, making sure that those letters and words pop through so that we can see them when we lift this layer and finish this background for one of our cards today. So you'll see here we have a nice colorful background. I'm using all cool tones. You can make it really colorful and vibrant with the warm tones and make it super fun depending on what you prefer. Okay, so here's a closer look at the Sweet Note dies. So we have this tri-fold envelope note card type situation, and we have another little square piece that will help you layer and add additional panels to your note card if you want. I'm gonna make 2 note cards out of pink and red cardstock. For the red note card, I'm using some white pigment ink. I wanted to show the XOXO pattern on the red better, and I thought the white would be better than using a dark ink. It's completely up to you. We're basically creating patterned paper here. And because the cardstock length that I cut for my Sweet Note is a little bit longer than the stencil, this particular stencil is very easy to use. You just shift it up and line up the X's or the O's, and it all lines up perfectly. And then I've repeated the pink panel with some pink ink and doing the same thing, shifting up the stencils to get full coverage on the panel. And I've done this before die cutting because I think that you get a smoother ink blending so that you don't have to ink blend over any creases in your cardstock. So I've die cut the envelope Sweet Note die out of each of my backgrounds that I created, as well as 4 additional squares, 2 for each. I wanted 1 panel on the inside of the envelope and 1 on the outside, but that's completely up to you. So to put this together, it's super easy. It's already scored for you, so I've just folded it and then burnished those fold lines with my bone folder. Okay, so once these are folded and put together, I'm going to layer those white panels on the inside and outside like I mentioned. And because this folds up, you're not going to want a lot of dimension on the inside. So I mostly want the space on the inside of my Sweet Note to be left for a note. So on the outside, I'm going to be decorating with a few of the images that I stamped and colored at the beginning of my video using the Heart Critters set. So on the outside of my envelopes, I'm going to go ahead and stamp some sentiments from the Heart Critters set, and then I'm going to add my critters that I colored at the beginning of the video. So here you can add some dimension if you want. I just left it as is and just applied some tape runner and made it nice and flat. I didn't want this to be too bulky. And then on the inside, I'm going to attach just simply the 2 little heart images that I stamped earlier. And then that finishes our 2 sweet little note cards. So again, you can put this in a lunchbox for your child or create a bunch of these for even classmates if you have younger children who still do that in their schools. Now moving on to my second project, I'm going to make an infinity shaker card. I thought this background would be really cute for a shaker card, and I wanted to create more interest. So as you can see, I ink blended some green all the way around this card panel, and it just provides a little bit more color. Using the same cherry ink, I applied some ink onto my glass mat, wet it with a few drops of water, and then I splattered my panel with some red cherry ink. You can skip that part if you don't like it. And I also always like to clean up my edges once I've stenciled and ink blended around the sides. So I've trimmed it 1/4 inch off all the sides. And to make my shaker card, I'm using some cellophane from old packaging from stamps and dies that I get. So I'm just trimming it down. You need about 1/4 to 1/2 inch, just enough for some adhesive. And then I cropped off all of the corners going diagonally and making sure not to cut off the corners on your actual panel. And I'm going to apply some double-sided adhesive, and then I'm going to fold that cellophane around to create a pocket for our shaker elements. I've left the top open so that I can fill my shaker before closing it up. I have the new Valentines mix here. It's a little clay mix, and I've added some into my pocket. And now I'm going to add a few sparkling clear sequins. I like a lot of interest in there and some sparkle and shine. And then once you're happy with how much you've filled up your pocket with, you can go ahead and seal that last flap. So now that I have my shaker created, I'm going to set it aside, and I'm going to stamp and emboss a sentiment from the Sweet Cherry set. Once I've heat set my sentiment, I can go ahead and trim the panel down. You can cut it however you like. A rectangle is just fine. I like to fussy cut around my sentiments, and this particular sentiment does not have a coordinating die, but that's okay. And I'm using strong double-sided adhesive there to adhere my first set of cherry images that I colored earlier in this video. I've attached some black foam tape to the back of my sentiment and then applied some more foam tape for that other cherry to layer. So I wanted this layer look, a set of the cherries in the back of the sentiment and one over top. And then I've attached this to a card base to complete my card. Last but not least, we have this mug set. Again, I'm using the mug from the winter mug die set, and then I'm going to die cut all the different accessories from the new Valentine mug edition set, and then we're going to ink blend and get all the papers pieced together so that we have all of our accessories for our mug. Now for the mug here, I wanted some more texture to get a ceramic feel to our mug, so I just used the residual ink that was left on my glass board, applied and added some water, and now I'm just dabbing my mug onto that wet surface, and I'm hoping to get little splotches of color, and that will create a nice textured look on our mug. Again, completely optional. I was just trying something new. Okay, so I'm going to finish ink blending all the little accessory pieces that we die cut from the Valentine mug edition set. I've got some strawberries and cherries and whipped topping and these little coffee beans. So I'm just ink blending them with coordinating inks that I die cut the cardstock pieces in, and we're just going to give it a little bit more interest and a little bit more color. So on the chocolate pieces and coffee beans, I used some browns, and then for the strawberry and cherry, I added some dark red ink. And I also quickly applied some green over the foliage as well for the cherry and the strawberries. So now I'm just going to be piecing all of the images together for the strawberries. I love the chocolate covered strawberry portion at the bottom, and then I've pieced together my cherry. Now I'm doing my mug as well as the little stirring stick. I think that's what it is, and I think it's super cute. And we have these little chocolates with their swirls. So I've pieced those together, and now I'm just tucking in a few accessories at the top. This double heart here reminded me of a shaped cracker. I thought that would be really cute, something you would put in at the top of your latte. And when I'm done piecing all of that together, I'm going to go ahead and attach my mug using some foam adhesive. And then I'll finish up my little scene here by attaching my little coffee beans and chocolates at the bottom of my card. And then lastly, there were a set of few little hearts that I die cut in red. So I just thought those would be really cute as sprinkles on top of my little swirl of whipped cream at the top. And then I'll finish with a cherry as well. I didn't want to put the cherry and the strawberries on the top of the mug. I don't know if that's weird, but I thought it would be really cute with a little pop of red at the bottom of the card as well. For the sentiment, I did do some hot foiling off camera. I did the love here in pink as well as the hugs in gold. And the love did look super cute, but I'm an all occasion kind of girl. So I used hugs so that way I could give this card to anybody at any time during the year. And it's super sweet. And so I've applied that across the mug at the top, and then that finishes my third and final project. So here we have two cards One is die cut, one is a shaker with those two cool backgrounds that we created using some layered stencils, and then we have our two sweet notes. If you're still watching, thank you so much for sticking through this video with me. I appreciate you spending that time with me. I hope you'll give this video a thumbs up and be sure to check out all of the links below if you're interested in buying any of these products. Thank you for your support. I'm going to link 2 more videos if you're interested in watching more. Otherwise, I hope you all have a great day. Bye, everyone.